hosted by ARIES International Maritime Research Institute. I'm your host, Neha. Today, I have a question for you. How often do you struggle to express yourself clearly and with confidence and power? Or perhaps speak in public? Well, in fact, many of us do the same. So, to help you connect with your audience and give you the necessary practical skills and knowledge on the same, we have with us a dynamic personal coach who is also a keynote speaker with Toastmaster International. She has expertise in individual and group training engagements and is currently the president of Humoroids Advanced Toastmasters Club, Abu Dhabi. She has also won several awards for humorous and impromptu speeches and is also a finance and audit professional with 10 plus years of experience in field of finance, fraud and risk management. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sanila Salim. Thank you so much, Salina, for accepting our invite and joining us here today. We all are pretty excited to hear you. Now over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neha. Even I'm excited to be part of this program and to be addressing all the audience here. So we are ready to get started, right? I hope so. All right. So in our friend circle or social community, we tend to come across two kinds of people. I call them the energy busters. The kind of people who really love to talk, but no one loves listening to. The moment you see them, you wish you were like invisible and want to run for your life. The energy is so irritating and you don't want to be around them. And there is a second type of people, the energy boosters. The energy is so vibrant, so refreshing. You simply love being around them. When you talk to them, you wouldn't feel the passage of time. And you simply love listening to them speaking or watching them speak. Fundamentally, both are communicators, but what sets them apart is how they communicate. And that makes a world of difference. And that is why knowing the art of public speaking comes to handy. If I were to decide or discuss what public speaking is, Wikipedia says that it's a process or act of performing speech to live audience. Statistics says that 3 out of 4 individuals faces severe anxiety and stress before they get onto the stage. Glossophobia is the most common type of fear, that is the fear of public speaking. Given a choice, people prefer to die than the one speaking. Isn't that a little too much? Now imagine the situation. After winning the war, Alexander the Great committed suicide. Why? Because he was too afraid to address his armies. So you see, we don't really have to compare public speaking to death, but it is deadly enough. Now, the good news is that the art of public speaking has evolved, and we are all public speakers, knowingly or unknowingly. It could be while we're attending a job interview, while speaking to our colleagues at workplace, maybe while narrating a bedtime story to our child, or while speaking to our spouse, or even addressing the armies after winning the war. So the incidents are numerous, and we are public speakers. But the most important aspect here is how you communicate, because what matters is the idea that you put forward. It doesn't really matter if your size of the audience is in thousands, hundreds, or even one. The impact you create is what really matters. And that is why we need to tend to avoid being an energy buster. Now that we understand the basic of public speaking, what is that makes a person an effective communicator? Is it the way he speaks, how he speaks, or what he speaks? We have some audience and participants here. Let's have a quick interaction. Let's have a message put in the chat box. So, according to you, what makes a person an effective communicator? Or what do you think that makes you listen to that person? I would love to hear some responses from you. The way the speaker speaks, yes. Any more responses? Learning skills, yes, the learning you come across. Thank you, Yavar, and thank you, Sujit. Any more references? The method of presentation, absolutely. Confidence, yes. Bintia, thank you. Connection, absolutely. Yes, Amir, the connection that you build with your audience. They have a leadership skill, absolutely, Christine. Eye contact, amazing. Godly, you are getting up some important and points that we will be discussing here shortly. So thank you for your responses. Yes, absolutely the points. I'm getting more responses. Body language. Yes, thank you, Bindia. Absolutely. So there's a research that was conducted by University of California. A very interesting research. And the research says that when a person speaks, 7% comes from the words he speaks, 36% from the voice, and 57% from the non-verbal communication. Like how some of you had mentioned, the eye contact, the body language, all these falls under the non-verbal communication. So imagine this, when a person speaks, 7% is the words, and the remaining 93% is how we speak. That is why it's really important to know that it is not what we speak, but how we speak matters. Now, how do we speak? In a speaking engagement, there are two elements. One, the speaker. Secondly, the speech. But before we go into detail, let me take you for a drive. Yes, you heard me right. A drive. As per the new norm, a virtual drive. If I were to take you for a drive, the first and the most important thing that we need to know, or I as a driver need to know, is the destination. That is, where do you want to go? If I don't know where you want to go, then I cannot choose the right path. I might go here and there and get lost on the way, or may not be able to take you to the right destination. So it's important to know the destination. Now, as a speaker, it's important to know the objective and know his audience. What is that the audience wants to know? Why are your audience here? Why would they listen to you? Understand the kind of audience you're addressing to you. To say, are you addressing school children? Are you addressing professionals? Are you addressing actors? Everybody has different interests. So you need to know your audience so you can address accordingly. Secondly, the vehicle type or the conveyance. Is the vehicle comfortable enough for you to fit in? Is it nice and easy? And as a speaker, it is the speech or the way my speech is organized. Is my message clear? Is my message organized? Because the last thing I want to do is overload you with a lot of information, not at all connected, and leave you confused at the end of the day. So, to have a speech well organized, there's a simple structure we talk about. That is the opening, the body, and the conclusion. So, when we segment your speech into three parts, it will be organized. And we will talk about these three segments as we move ahead. And finally, the way I drive. Are you comfortable with the way I drive? Am I too fast? Am I too slow that you're so bored in my car? So how do you find my driving? And that is where, for me, or as a speaker, it is the way I deliver my speech. Do I look confident, like few of you had said? Is there a leadership quality in me? Am I dynamic enough to capture attention? All of these factors comes under the way I drive or the delivery. So, are we ready to go for a drive in detail? So fasten your seatbelt and let's get started. So the first point that I said is the destination or the objective. The first important thing is to know your audience. because your audience may not speak the same language as we do or share the same ideology as we do. And the last thing we want to do is to hurt their sentiments by speaking something which is not they believe in religiously, politically, culturally. Yes, we need to appear confident, but not arrogant enough. So here we need to follow a simple mantra: give respect, and it comes back to us. And isn't that what we do when we also drive? So once we know our target audience, the second thing we need to do is to choose an appropriate topic. Choosing a right topic follows simple guidelines. First, choose a topic that is suitable for your audience and something that you believe in. For instance, if I love junk food and I'm so passionate about junk food, and I talk about being a vegan or a non vegetarian, that passion wouldn't be there. So make sure you believe in the message that you communicate. Secondly, let your topic have a positive message so your audience would feel interacted and motivated enough to listen. And like I said earlier, know your target audience and choose an appropriate topic. And avoid technical languages, technical jargons, difficult vocabulary. Always keep it simple and short and sweet so the audience can understand that. Let me tell you this: if you are in a speaking engagement to address 10-year-old school children, if you spoke about nuclear war exploration in North Korea or the G20 summit that just commenced and all of these technical and political things, they will not understand that. So we need to choose a topic where they would follow. Once we have understood our target audience, chosen the topic we want to do, then next we come to the three golden rules of public speaking, and that is practice, practice, and practice. Now, let me tell you this: it's absolutely okay to talk to yourself when no one is watching you, because when you talk and think aloud, you're able to articulate your message better. You need to know what kind of message are you trying to convey. Sometimes it's nice to write it down. Write, rewrite, read, edit, till you come with a message that is concise and clear. Tone it down to a better fit for your audience. And it doesn't really matter if you think, what if the audience doesn't like it? Here we're trying to share our idea. And as long as it's factually correct and not misleading, feel confident and be positive. One of the most common questions I hear, or a dilemma a speaker faces, that how to choose an appropriate or a very lively or engaging topic. The simplest answer for that would be to inculcate reading habit. Because when you read, you open your doors to new ideas, new information, and sometimes new words, quotes. It's exciting world out there. So when you bring in those exciting words and stories into your regular conversation, then you can bring in interesting content. Sometimes write it down so you can revise them, revisit them, and keep using them. Once we have all set and are prepared for our drive, there could be some hiccups. That is, your vehicle could have a bit of a starting trouble. Your engine might not work immediately, or it could. How is that relevant to us as a speaker? Stage fright. Remember, I told you at least 3 out of 4 people experience stage fright and anxiety before they go to stage. If you have those feelings, let me tell you, it's an indication that you are absolutely normal human being, because it's so common to feel stage fright, and not just for the beginners, but even the most experienced speakers. Because each time you come across new audience, and there are a lot of things that are not within our control. For instance, I'm in a webinar with you. If my internet fails, I lose connection here. And that is not sometimes completely under my control. What is under my control is how prepared I am today to address you. So there are a lot of known factors and unknown factors that goes into it. So when you're more prepared, when you practice more, you learn how to control that stress and anxiety. Another example I could tell you is about the marathon runners. People don't run 10, 20, or even 30 kilometers in a day. They learn, they practice and practice. Consistency is the key. So over the period of time, they build that stamina to run that desired kilometers. And in spite of all the practice, they could feel tired and wear down, and that's absolutely normal. So when we practice better, we would learn to control our fear. Now, still, if you have a bit of a stage fright left, what do? Take 3 deep breaths, relax, drink some water, and the stage is all yours to conquer. So once we speak about the preparation part, then comes to the second aspect, and that is the speech organization, or in our drive story, the vehicle type. I did mention that an effective speech consists of 3 parts. That is the opening, the body, and the conclusion. A well organized speech makes an audience understand your message better. It stays more in their mind. So, what is an opening aspect of a message? Before I talk about this, let me give you a tiny example. If you're in a store and you want to buy a magazine, most people look into the magazine cover. Though they say do not judge a book by its cover, we love to see this vibrant and colorful picture on the page of the magazine. And based on that, you base an opinion that maybe this magazine is good. And that's why always the cover page of the magazine is very classy and beautiful. Likewise, in a speech, your opening or the first few seconds has to be compelling enough to capture your audience attention. They should have that anticipation. What is that? What are they going to speak about? Once you're able to build that anticipation and excitement in your audience, then half the job is done. You get a tick mark there. Now, how do we do that? Few simple tips would be start with a question, an interesting question indeed. Maybe we could start with a joke, a humorous joke, or a stage act, a bit of a drama, an acting scene. There are a lot of ways we can do that. So once we have the opening set, your audience would presume that this speaker is worth listening to. And they kind of build that confidence in you. Once the opening is done, then we go to the next part. That is the body. In the body of the message is where you speak more in detail about the theme you're trying to speak about. You explain that better. And that is where you could use your research, your statistics, presentations if you need to, in different ways. One of the most common and powerful way of introducing your body is using a storytelling approach, because stories are more like souls with facts. It connects emotion with logic and make those points very memorable. We have second golden rule. The sixth golden rule of public speaking is that make a point, tell a story. With the story, your audience would understand the message clearly. Now we have the body of the message done. What is next? The way we conclude. As much as the importance you give to the opening and the body, your conclusion has to be powerful enough to make the point worth remembering. What is a message that you're leaving with? In your conclusion, you summarize your final outcome and you wrap it up in style. In a simple way, imagine you are watching a movie and the movie was so exciting and you love every bit of it. But what if the climax is not as good as you anticipated? It just lets you down. And then you feel like, did I waste my 2 hours in that movie? You feel so let down and betrayed. That is how a poor closing does to your speech. That is why every segment in a speech is really important. So a quick recap, your opening is where you introduce your team, make it really powerful and memorable, the body, where you introduce and speak a little more about the theme. And the golden rule is that make a point, tell a story. And finally, the conclusion, where you end it in power and in style. So once we're done with the speech organization, then we come to the next part, the way I drive or my delivery style. Remember the research I told you earlier? The 7% part is where the speech or the words are, and the remaining 93% is involved in how we speak. And yes, we are getting into that aspect, how we speak. Now, let me do a little bit of breakdown, which I said earlier. So, in this 57% is your non-verbal communication, and your 36% is your voice. So first, let's talk about the 57%. In 57%, why is non-verbal communication important? Like how most of you said, when a person speaks, you tend to look at their facial expression, whether they look confident, because the way you appear makes a big difference. Are you confident enough? Is your facial expression in line with what you're saying? Is your eye connected with your audience? All of this adds up to the persona of the speaker. So let's look at few of the important non-verbal communication techniques. And the first one is the eye contact. It's really important to make eye contact with your audience because you feel so connected with your audience, and likewise, your audience would feel valued and respected. Let me give you the scenario. You are at a board meeting and your manager is addressing the staff. And the manager looks at you and says, "You guys are amazing. You guys do a great job." So if you feel your manager is looking at your eyes and speaking, you feel respected, you feel valued, you feel proud as an employee when your manager recognizes your work, right? And how do you reciprocate? So you look back to your manager's eyes, maybe you smile or you nod. So that connection that you make with your manager, that is how effective eye contact works. Secondly, if I look at you and then I know that maybe my audience is bored, my message is not well received, it gives me an opportunity to alter my speech, makes it more interesting, or change my pace. So it's a give and take literally. Now, let me tell you this. If I were speaking to you like this, I look at down or probably I look at the corner and speak to you. How do you feel about it? Would you feel like listening to me or would you lose that connection with me? When a speaker is not confident enough or when a speaker doesn't look straight to the audience, a connection is lost at the very moment. So it's very important and integral to maintain a proper eye contact. But if you're in a group engagement and you choose one person and you keep looking at that person for a really long time, you might come across as a bit of a creepy person. So let's follow a 3-second rule. You look at a person for 3 seconds and then you look at another person, another person. Don't keep looking at a person for more than several seconds. Secondly, we are in a Zoom platform or a webinar, and sometimes the audience camera would be off, or sometimes you don't get to make a proper eye contact with your audience. What do we do then? The easiest way would be to always look at your camera because that is where your audience would feel you looking at them. And if you have difficulty focusing on your camera, just pick a point, a spot or a yellow dot or a yellow sticky there and look at that. So the audience would feel the eye contact. The next aspect of non-verbal communication is your movement. Again, this could be pretty limited in a Zoom or a webinar level, but some people use it effectively or while you're addressing a live audience. Movement makes a person appear more confident. He more looks like a leader because of the space he uses. He moves around to make a point. Then movement can be dynamic and very refreshing to look at. But we need to avoid moving a lot. So how do I make a movement purposeful? First and foremost, always use a powerful spot on the stage. And what is that spot? Which is a central position. Even if you're seated in a webinar, make sure you sit on the middle of the camera. If you have enough space here, and you have the central person, rather you're moved on to a corner, which looks a little abrupt and not nice. In your audience, as well in your live stage, stand in the middle of the stage and move as and when required. For instance, if I want to ask you a question, I could move closer to you and ask that question. If I want to talk about something in the past, when I was in India last year, you can move forward. So that talks about a passage of time when you take a step back. That is how you make your movement more purposeful and effective. But what if you keep moving around the stage? Yeah, that is a big, big turnoff. That makes an audience feel very distracted. It makes it very difficult for them to focus. Secondly, one thing a speaker does is when he's nervous, he tends to sway a lot. Or what they do is they keep shifting their weight from one leg to another. That is a symbol of fear and non-confidence. So we need to avoid that. Every action should be purposeful. Overdoing doesn't look nice. The next non-verbal communication I would like to talk about is the hand gestures. Hand gestures, simply the way you move your hands. Hand gestures has a capability to enhance your message. It makes you look confident and relaxed. It amplifies the story. How do we use our hand gestures? If I want to speak about the bullet points, let me repeat the same thing how I told you. Hand gestures enhance your message. It makes you appear confident. It amplifies your story. This is one way of using a hand gesture. Remember how I spoke about the speech organization? That's another way. Opening, body, and conclusion. These are different techniques to use a hand gesture. But the most important fact here is your hand gesture has to be in line with your verbal communication. Let me take this small phrase, get out. How can I say that? Get out is how I say. My verbal communication is in line with my hand communication. But what if I said, get out, and then use my hand? It looks a bit awkward and mumbled and doesn't look nice. So that is why it's very important to have your hand gestures in line with your verbal communication. But another problem is, since because I said hand gestures is really important, some speakers tend to use a lot of hand gestures. They keep going on for every single word they say. And that is another big turnoff. It looks like a windshield of your vehicle, actually, the wiper, or probably you're being the brand ambassador of a table fan because you keep going on and on and on. So too much of anything is not good. Keep it limited, purposeful, and powerful. Another nonverbal communication is your facial expression. People look at you and they try to form an opinion when they see you. Sometimes if you have a child and when you shout at your child or try to be serious, the first thing the child would be looking at you because they know if you're smiling, then you don't really mean it, or if you're serious. And that is how every person do that. They try to form an opinion based on your facial expression. And that's important. For instance, the same, the word I use get out, could say in different ways. If I said, get out, then I could appear angry because my eyes are big, my teeth is clenched. But what if I said, get out? There I am smiling, I am not serious enough, and you probably know I'm joking. It's the same words, but how you say with your facial expression talks a lot. People interpret your motives through your emotions, and that is why maintaining that adequate facial expression. Because if you keep a straight face and keep talking and talking and talking without a smile, your audience will also get bored and they don't even want to look at you after a certain time. But when you smile, you make it look like you're more vibrant and energetic. So facial expression is equally important. So let's have a quick recap. We spoke about facial expression, eye contact, hand gestures, and movement. So how do we memorize this? Let me give you a quick or small short form. Move, hands, face, and eyes. So move is for movement, hands is hand gesture, face is facial expression, eye is eye contact. So once we spoke about this 57%, which is a major chunk, then we come to the next part. which is the voice. Your voice is the first thing an audience listen to. Based on your voice, your audience tend to form an opinion. Is she interesting? Is it worth listening to? Because your variation in tone says a lot. Just like how your facial expression can show the message you're trying to convey, the same thing. So, how do we play or work effectively with our voice? That is where we need to know about vocal variety. Vocal variety is how you bring variation in your tone. For instance, if I talk to you like this for the next 20 minutes, I'm very sure that you're all going to fall asleep because it's not interesting, it's boring, and it's absolutely monotonous. But what if I spoke to you with a lot of energy, a lot of excitement? You would want to listen to me. And if I want to say something important, I will slow down because that's when I can capture your attention. So these are different or simplest way you can work with your vocal variety to build in curiosity, anticipation in your audience. The next one is the clarity. Clarity is important for a simple reason. What I'm trying to convey must be understood by you. And how do we work on the clarity of the speech? It's by adjusting the pace, which is the speed at which we speak. If I speak to you too fast, it will be very difficult for you to understand because you wouldn't know what I'm trying to say. Before you comprehend, I've already completed my sentence. But if I slow down and spoke with a simple pace, you know what I'm trying to communicate. The message is well received by the audience. That's why it's really important to maintain that tempo while you speak. Finally, the pause or a short break. Pause when used strategically at the right point makes a speech better and brings a difference that way. If you want to build an anticipation or excitement, the best way to do is to use pauses. Pauses can also be used to let audience have a time to understand the message you're conveying. Let them reflect, let them absorb that. Because if you go continuously for the next few minutes, it will be very difficult for the audience to follow what we're trying. For instance, let me tell you this. If someone annoys you, it takes 47 muscles to frown, but it only takes 4 muscles to just raise your hand and slap them. That is how you build that anticipation. And that is why maintaining the pause at the right point is very important. Now let's have a quick recap at the voice part of it. Have you heard about VVIP? We all know what VVIP stands for, right? Very, very important person. But what is VVCP? Very, very classy person. Where in our case, it is we, vocal variety, C for clarity, and P for pause. Vocal variety, clarity, and pause. That is how we work on your voice. So let's have a quick recap. For effective speech organization, the most important part is to have an opening, the body, and the conclusion. Opening, where you introduce your subject, body, where you talk about it in detail with presentations, researches in form of a story, and finally, the conclusion, the way we conclude. When it comes to the non-verbal communication part, remember I said move, hands, face, and eyes. The movement across the stage and the stage usage, your eye contact, your facial expression, your hand gesture. And finally, your voice, VVCP, vocal variety, clarity, and pause. And when you put all of these elements together, it comes out as a very effective and interesting conversation. And one thing I would like to highlight is that communication is nothing but putting across your ideas. And it doesn't really matter if your size of your audience is thousands, hundreds, or one, because the impact you create on them is what really matters. It's just like having a conversation with your friend. When you're in a friend, you have a cup of coffee and you talk to them, you laugh, you share your ideas. And that is what it is about. It doesn't have to be too complicated or too difficult. So let's decide if we want to be an energy buster or an energy booster. Good luck, happy speaking, and God bless you all. Now we have a quick Q&A session, and I would love to take your questions and we can answer them here. So you can use the Q&A chat box to put in your questions. I'm assuming my session is so clear and crystal that I think I've covered all your questions beforehand. And I think that's a good thing.
Thank you, Sanila. That was an interesting session. Before we have this, I think one audience question has come. Okay, can you please explain about explain clarity?
The clarity.
Yeah.
Okay. So clarity is how you understand a message. So I guess I did not do justice to that part of clarity because you did not understand what I was trying to convey. And that's how clarity works. Your message has to be clear and concise. So when a listener listens to you, they understand what you're trying to convey. And sometimes it's important to speak slowly and clearly so that message is clear. And that is what clarity is about.
Okay, there's this question from Yavar. I'm a shy boy. How can I speak in public?
How can you speak in public? Just like how we learn to drive. We practice, we have conversations with your friend, and you try to socialize with other people, public, and gradually you will build that up. Talk about something that you're passionate about. If you love reading, talk about reading. If you are a cricket fan, talk about cricket. And that's how you build that passion. First and foremost, talk about something you enjoy. So there you will have a bit of confidence.
Okay. Goldie asked, when did you feel most stressed while delivering your speech? Your experience, he's asking about.
In my experience, the few minutes before I get into the stage is the most difficult part because I do not know what is going to be coming. What if I forget my script? What if I freeze before my audience? So those are few of the fear stress I go through. But once I get into the stage and see my audience, all those fear dies away. And then I just want to put my message across. And especially when I spoke about the eye contact, you can see how your message is being received by your audience. So when you feel that they are accepting you, they follow you, then you feel more relaxed and confident.
Okay. Bindya asks, sometimes we misspell words. Will it be noticeable? And if it is, we will. And if that happens, we get nervous soon. So how do we overcome that?
Well, certain words are pronounced differently. One way, like target can be said as target, casual, schedule. So there are situations where some words can be misspelled, and sometimes yes, the audience picks it up. But if you realize that you didn't do it right, just apologize and speak, because audience love when we're simple and respectful to them. Tell them, oh, I'm sorry, I think I said that wrong, or I'm sorry. And then just speak about it and go with the flow, and it will be well received by the audience.
Okay, there's this question. Is exposure being a speaker or training as a speaker works better?
Can you repeat the question again?
I think the person is trying to convey that if we start speaking on stages, does that help? Or if you just keep on getting that training to become a speaker, does that help? What helps to speak better?
Speak. Okay. I would say you need both of it equally because you need to practice. Because only if you practice, you feel confident enough to appear in front of the audience. That's why we need to practice as much as we can. And then once we practice, then we need the real experience, the exposure to your audience, because your audience are of different kinds. Let me tell you this. if you are a movie buff, like talk about Shah Rukh Khan movies or anything, they are in the industry for 20, 25, or 30 years. Sometimes their movies are super hit. Sometimes their movies are flop. It's nothing to do with their judgment. They do justice to their role, but the audience expectation varies. So that's why it's important to have a real time experience and behind the screen experience. Both works equally and both are important.
Okay. Amir asked, will online meetings be a new norm for Toastmaster meetings?
Well, there is something that people are talking about, which is called a hybrid meeting. So when you talk about hybrid meeting, you have a real meeting and you have a camera. So people across the countries can participate and online. There's a live streaming going on and real meeting. So probably, yes, that's the new norm.
Okay. Anija asks, how do I address a hostile group?
First and foremost, simplicity and connection. We need to be able to build that connection with them. And once you're able to put across your message in a very simple and sweet manner, yes, you can get in connected. But let me tell you this, let's not go to the stage always with an expectation that we are going to make it. It's going to be the best speech ever. Sometimes we fail, and it's completely okay because that's a learning experience for you. See, if a person decides that they do not want to appreciate you as a speaker, if that is the mentality of your audience, no matter what you do, even if you're a star performer, a world-class performer, they will not applaud you. But that doesn't make you less as a speaker. Most importantly, you need to believe in yourself and go forward with the preparation that you have come for.
Goldie asks, I have an experience, some experienced people keep interrupting your speeches in between and raise points related to the subject, but on which I was not supposed to be prepared. How, in your opinion, one can tackle such situations?
Okay. There was a very recent video of the news vice president in US that's been going along. When she was interrupted, she said, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. And that's how it happens. If someone tries to interrupt them, tell them politely, thank you so much, but let me complete my session and I will address you. So if you say that once and second time, I'm sure they will stop interrupting you and wait till you complete.
Okay, this one is very common. How do I overcome a tendency to say uhs and ums in my speech?
Okay, this is a very common thing. Even most proficient speakers, because says ahs and ums, and these are the filler words, because we are thinking as we speak. Exactly. So first and most important thing is be aware that we tend to use ahs and ums. Maybe you can count them. Or if you're going with a prepared speech segment, practice your speech so much. So when you speak a lot and practice them, you will avoid them. And once you get that exposure and experience, gradually we will cut down.
Okay. Anagha asks, how to handle information overflow while handling the audience?
Okay. This is why we need to organize our speech in such a manner that we do not have a lot of information. Now, if you listen to my speech, obviously there's a lot of information where I talk about speech organization, I talk about non-verbal communication, I talk about voice. So what I was doing was I was recapping them every now and then. What was the message? How do we do this? So when you have the recap done, you drill that message into the minds of your audience. So keep the information low, but if you have to use a lot of information, keep recapping them after every few minutes.
Okay. Mohammed Saifur asks, he has two questions for you. Some speakers jokes for ice breaking. Is it a good idea to make some jokes in long time speaking sessions? And the second question goes, what is the most important part of speaking to make audience more involved in your speech?
Okay. Talking about humor, obviously, if humor is a person's forte, it would be interesting to sprinkle humor here and there so you can capture your audience attention. But make sure we don't use humor in such a way that doesn't go well with the audience. So it has to be in line with the kind of audience you're addressing. Now, if you don't use humor, you could also use like interactive session by asking questions, Q&A, or you could even ask a rhetorical question. Do you think this is the best approach or not. So such rhetorical questions can be good. Sometimes you can use presentations or storytelling approach. So all of these can be used in a long speeches.
Okay. Vidya asks, should we use some better words to show that we know things better, or using simple words works?
Okay. If you have, or if you tend to watch Mr. Shashi Tharoor's speech, Shashi Tharoor is known for his hard-built vocabulary.
Exactly.
But when he addresses the audience, he keeps it simple because your idea is to not show how knowledgeable, how intellectual we are. Our idea is to put our message across, share an idea with the audience. So it's always best to keep it simple.
Great. Now I have a question for you. So what is more important? Is it content or is it delivery?
Like I said, the content, what you speak only takes 7%, but the way you deliver is 93%. So I would suggest give more importance to way you deliver, but obviously your content has to be strong, sensible, factually correct.
Okay. And how do you keep your nerves calm? Sometimes when we speak, our nerves are not calm, and our voice starts shaking. So how do you control that?
Okay. If something like that happens, it's okay to take a break, drink some water. That gives you enough time to, think and relax. Or distract your audience, ask them a question, or give them an interacting session between them. So you can take a short break to calm yourself down.
Nice. Okay. So what is the best way to conquer the fear of public speaking?
Practice, practice, and more practice.
And how much should we practice?
Till you feel you have conquered your fear. If you can address or talk to your audience for a few seconds, that's good enough. And that's how all we begin, right? Like, let's talk about runners and athletes. They practice a lot, and that's how they make it. Like Usain Bolt, he makes records in less than 10 seconds, but he is not always the world champion. He loses at times, but he practices himself to get there. And that goes with public speaking.
Vidya asks you, how much time do you practice?
Well, I am honestly a very nervous person, to be frank. So I make sure I practice a lot so that my nervousness is camouflaged. So till I feel I know my script well, I can organize them. I'm able to bring in new ideas and confident enough, and that goes it. And there is no timeline for it. It varies from person to person. A beginner might take few days or few weeks. An expert just need few hours. So your experience helps you decide how long you want to practice.
Exactly. So I think we have covered all the questions. I think we have.
Okay.
Okay, no, there are a few more. So what is your opinion regarding PowerPoint presentations? Do you think they make your job easy?
Okay. PowerPoint presentation actually makes your job very easy because you tend to hide behind your PowerPoint presentation. So if you want to emerge as a very powerful speaker or an impactful speaker, keep your presentation to minimal. Sometimes it's important to get some messages across. If you look at, there was a Steve Jobs presentation where his presentation just said a numeral, a 1 million or something. That's a very powerful presentation because it speaks less and you are the speaker there. It doesn't take the spotlight off you.
Exactly.
So that is most important.
Okay.
It should compliment you.
Exactly. So there's one question. I would love to be an RJ, but I struggle with stammering. How do I improve on speaking?
Well, if you're into public speaking, there's a person called Mohammed Khatani. He was a world champion of public speaking. He did not speak until the age of 4, and he suffered from stuttering. And he competed against more than 200,000 people across the world to emerge as the world champion. He's a Saudi Arabian nationality. In YouTube, you can find him. Stuttering is something probably we can not avoid, but a situation. But when you speak, you learn to handle that. It's important for you to feel confident. The audience is not going to judge you. If you feel confidence and if you feel think, yes, I can do it, and that's what matters. Don't bother about how your audience would judge you. I really wish you get your dream job as an RJ because we would love to hear from you.
I think we have covered all the questions. So thank you so much, Sanila, for that interesting sessions. Indeed, your tips would have definitely helped many of our audiences today. So as we draw close to the end of a session, I would like to thank our audience. I hope you enjoyed this session just the way we enjoyed putting up for you. We will see you next time with yet another interesting topic and a speaker. Till then, stay happy and stay safe. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sanila. Thank you.